Black Enterprise presents the 40 Under 40 honorees in finance. This extraordinary group features financial experts, financial literacy advocates, and financial heavyweights. Alicia Wilson, Vice President of Economic Development at Johns Hopkins University and Johns Hopkins Health System. Melanie Dixon, Vice President, America's iShares Business Strategy at BlackRock. Margaret Anadu, Global Head of Sustainability and Impact and Chairwoman at the Urban Investment Group. Sharice Ross McDonald, Creator and Host of Revolt TV's Maconomics. Kezia M. Williams, CEO at the Black Upstart. And William Hurd, CEO and Chief Investment Officer at Hurd Capital, LLC. For more information on all of our honorees, log on to blackenterprise.com/40 under 40.
Hope you're enjoying the Black Enterprise 40 Under 40 Summit. My name is Selena Hill, and I'm back again, this time to facilitate a conversation about tools and strategies to build generational wealth in the Black community. Collectively, Black Americans have about $1.3 trillion in annual spending power. But get this, there are only 7 African American billionaires in the nation. So during this session, a panel of experts will share financial tips and tools to grow your revenue streams and build wealth through smart investments, real estate, entrepreneurship, and stock trading. I'll start by introducing our esteemed panel, starting with Ross Mack, who is a former Wall Street professional and the current host of Maconomics on Revolt TV. He is also an Ivy League educated hip-hop artist dedicated to increasing access to financial education and literacy. We also have Kezia Williams, who is the CEO of the Black Upstart, a nationally recognized company serving aspiring African-American small business owners. She is also the founder of Skill House U, an online school that provides necessary skills and training for entrepreneurship and wealth creation. And along with that, she is the founder of My Black Receipt, which is a tech company that tracks spending at Black-owned businesses. Lastly, we have Vernon J, a social entrepreneur and real estate investor that has dedicated his life to community building through multifamily acquisitions and asset management. Since 2005, he has facilitated over $50 million worth of real estate transactions around the country. He is also the founder of EquityCoin, the first digital token on the blockchain backed by affordable housing. Welcome to the 40 Under 40 Summit.
Thank you for having us, Selena.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Selena.
Thank you. Definitely a dream come true.
For sure. So as I just stated, there's 7 Black billionaires in the nation. What can we do to create more?
Well, Selena, I'd like to start it off. I'd like to start off with the fact that, let's talk about numbers. 90% of all millionaires get their first million through real estate. It's the foundation of building wealth. From there, you go into stocks, you go into these other, income producing assets, income streams, but it all starts with real estate. I think, we've got this opportunity, especially in America, where a first-time home buyer, you have this opportunity for the first time, you can actually invest in a property that's 4 units. And I think the biggest mistake that first-time investors make is by acquiring assets that are single family and doesn't create any income. So if we can create that wealth, that foundational wealth, I don't care if you're a nurse, I don't care if you're a sanitation worker, a rapper, an artist, it doesn't matter what you are, that real estate can create that foundational wealth for you and create that generational wealth, because generational wealth is the new Underground Railroad.
Speaking of rappers, Ross, what would you say is the vehicles and the tools we should be doing to create more Black billionaires?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, right? At the end of the day, becoming a billionaire in America is not an easy task, but I think one of the underlying things is it all started with a more holistic approach to everything, right? They knew obviously how to budget, how to invest, but one thing they did do was have access to capital, right? I think that's something that truly differentiates, millionaires and billionaires, because they have the access to utilize other people's money to actually finance their dreams, right? If you look at one point in time when Kanye was like, yo, Mark Zuckerberg, let me get a loan, right? He needed a loan to actually take his idea and his business to the next level. If you look at all billionaires, right, they, for the most part, were able to find some level of financing. And as you can imagine, Black people through history have been kind of shut out of being able to actually get good financing, right? So even going back to Vernon's point, when you think about real estate, historically, Black people weren't really able to get those loans when it came to the real estate market. And so when you start thinking about now, it comes with understanding, one, you got to be long-sighted as opposed to short-sighted. You're not going to become a millionaire overnight. Damn sure won't be able to become a billionaire overnight, right? So the idea is starting out slow, being able to invest, being able to get compounding interest over time, allowing your kids to have a head start, which will then incur, hopefully your kids will become billionaires if you yourself don't.
Kezia, you're a financial expert yourself, as well as an advocate for entrepreneurship and an entrepreneur. What would you say is the vehicle to build that type of wealth?
Yeah, I agree with what Vernon has stated, what Ross has stated. But one of the things that I want to talk about is how Black people are often told that we have to pull up by bootstraps in America. When we think about real estate, when we think about business acquisition, when we even think about the ways in which people acquired land, a lot of billionaires and even millionaires in America pulled up on policies and not necessarily on bootstraps. I like to tell people, don't swim in an ocean of knowledge and drown in ignorance. When you follow the policies in America, one thing you will see is that through the Homestead Act, that America allocated free land to some people, but not all people. When we began thinking about Social Security and how that helped the elderly retire and also leave assets to their children, which really is a generational inheritance, that was available to some people, but not all people. And even recently with the Paycheck Protection Program, I know it's trending across the gram, Selena, that everybody and their mama trying to get the PPP. But let's not forget that at the beginning of last year or middle of last year, that the PPP really was allocated to larger companies that were masquerading as small companies. So we weren't thinking about the barbershops, right? We weren't thinking about the nail salon or your lash girl. No, we were thinking about publicly traded companies like Ruth Chris, right? Like Joel Osteen. I know a lot of y'all love him, but he was also submitting PPP as a small business who were competing with Main Street people. So when I talk to Black people, specifically Black people who want to build wealth, I think it's important for us to know the history of money and how, yes, we can work hard to acquire capital, but also how we can challenge our legislators, our policymakers, and really organize at the local level to help policy really follow cash flow.
And Kezia, you said a lot there. Thank you so much for breaking that down. You said a lot about getting access to capital. Having that knowledge and that insight about the history of the systemic obstacles that prevented Black people from getting that access to capital, what would you say we should be paying attention to now so that we can take advantage of some of the resources that are now, in our grasp?
Yeah, I like to tell people that you need to study the Black History Blueprint. One of the biggest fallacies I think that we teach Black entrepreneurs is that the only way that you can be successful is by becoming a white male tech entrepreneur. I love Beyonce, right? But she said that she wanted to be the next Black Bill Gates in the making, right? But when we look at the ways in which Black entrepreneurs have secured capital, they've done it in creative ways. We can talk about Mary McLeod Bethune, right? People know her as Bethune-Cookman University's founder, but she started in a one-room schoolhouse. And the way that she paid her rent every single month was by selling meat pies to mine workers down the street. That's crowdfunding, right? That's the old school way of asking your friends and family to donate to you, turning your contacts into capital. And even from contemporary examples like Issa Rae, right? I don't know if you team Issa or you team Lawrence, or perhaps you towing the line and you playing with both teams, but she did not start on HBO with Insecure. She started by funding her series on YouTube working 9 to 5 in order to fund her dream. And so when I talk to Black entrepreneurs and we have frank conversations about capital, one of the things that I like to tell them is that you need to use what you have, start where you are, and do what you can. Within your contacts, there is capital for your small business.
Absolutely. Vernon, you have over 15 years of experience in the multifamily real estate industry and a growing portfolio of affordable housing. What tips and strategies would you share with our audience looking to use real estate as a tool to build generational wealth?
Well, so Selena, I like to kind of piggyback on what Kezia was saying, and also Ross, about capital building, right? And I think right now is a phenomenal time in America as a small business to raise capital, because you've got new tools that have just opened up. I mean, in 2014, you've got the Jobs Act, which opened up and allowed normal investors to be able to invest in your idea, which was unheard of, before then. You've got just on March 15th of this year, you've got Regulation CF, which is Regulation Crowdfund, which it used to be you can only raise $1 million, but now you can raise up to $5 million using Reg CF. And you can use that for real estate. You can do real estate, you can do startups. And I think it's important to understand that legislation, those regulatory bodies, in order for us to get that capital. And there are platforms like Small Change, like different platforms out there that are allowing people to do this at a very fast pace. So I would say, do your research. When you're buying a property, your first property, make sure you take advantage of that 4-unit. I know some people are saying, yo, Vern, how am I going to buy a 4-unit property? But the reality is that if you take advantage of that, because you only have one time to buy your first property where you can get 3% down, 0% down. And it's a sort of a waste if you do it on a single family when you could buy a 4-family and then create that foundation for that generational wealth. And you can get approved from that by having the income from the other units. So the bank is going to include that income that you have for the other units into your income, which now allows you to afford that 4-unit that you thought was absolutely impossible, which could be the foundation for your generational wealth building.
Ross, as an advocate for financial education, what do Black families need to know and understand about the stock market when it comes to building generational wealth?
Absolutely. So when you think of it, when you look at the wealth gap in this country, it starts with exposure gap, information gap. And so one of the things I always like to preach is, as we're talking about this entire segment right now is a road to $1 billion. You can't get to $1 billion without first getting to $1 million. And I tell a lot of people, when it comes to the investing, there's an actual clear-cut way of investing every month. A couple $100 every month, you'll have $1 million in the next 25, 30 years, right? But not a lot of people want to take that, right? And I think what happens is that our peers, right, our white peers, our counterparts, they've been exposed to this, right? Vernon, we're talking about real estate. Their grandparents had real estate. They were able to continue to pass that down. So obviously, right, when we're sitting here, we're thinking about it. Unfortunately, our culture, we're trying to get rich quick. We're trying to make up for lost time. 400 years of lost time, right? So the reality is, right, once you get past that saying, okay, I'm trying to get rich tomorrow, right? If we can, conceptualize that in our mind, then we could actually start making a true $1 million the slow, easy way, right? Which is investing into the S&P 500 every month. You're gonna benefit from compounding interest, making racks on racks on racks, interest on interest on interest every month, which will in turn give you the ability to truly grow, build generational wealth over time, right? It's not the sexiest way, but it's an actual sure way, right? The stock market, the S&P 500 is going to give you on average returns of 10% each year. And I try to tell people, like, 10% might not sound like a lot, especially if you look at, last year, like, oh, I was up 200-300% on my Tesla stock or whatever, right? That's cool. Tesla's down this year, right? The reality is, one thing you want to understand is that the stock market is a long-term game. And a lot of people, when you get in it, if you're in there for, a long term with a long-term horizon, you will for sure make money. And so, like, what I want to tell, people when it comes to their families, listen, be disciplined. Don't feel as though you got to get rich over time. And you could literally invest every month. The same way you pay your phone bill every month, invest first. Pay yourself first. And once you start to do that, you're developing that type of discipline, you'll make money long term.
Now, when it comes to investing, Ross, I know a lot of us are using apps like Robinhood. Is that something that you would advocate for or encourage new investors to be using at this time? What would you say?
I think it's best to use whatever you find to be as easy as possible, right? I think when you look at, investing, a lot of people are, a little, self-conscious when it comes to it. They don't feel as though they could actually do it, right? And I think Robinhood did a good job of making it very easy, right? But what I do want to let people know is that now in today's day and age, every brokerage account, for the most part, you're able to invest for free, meaning you don't have to pay commission fees, right? So when you look at it, I utilize E-Trade more so, but I also have a Robinhood. Now, I only got a Robinhood so I could better talk to the community so I can understand what everyone's using. But the idea is to utilize automation. The same way you got direct deposit, a check going into your bank account, and the same way you might have a check automatically paying your credit card every month or whatnot, utilize that same thing. And every brokerage account gives you that ability to say, you know what, I want to invest $200 every month on the second day of the month or the 15th day of the month, whatever it is. So for me, I think you can use E-Trade, Acorns, you can use Fidelity, Charles Schwab, right? Robinhood. I think what it boils down to is saying, what do you feel more confident with?
Gotcha. And, speaking of investing, some of the buzzwords and things we continue to hear about right now is cryptocurrency, blockchain, Bitcoin, etc. Vernon, you've spent years traveling and researching blockchain. What are some of the smart investments in cryptocurrency that you would recommend at this time?
Well, I would say this. Look, I've been in the game since 2016. I've hung out with the sheiks in Dubai talking about crypto. I went to Hong Kong, hung out with the players in the Asian markets, and it's a global market. It's something that should not be taken lightly. And I went through that cycle in 2018 where we saw the high and then we saw the low. And I think what we're seeing right now is a lot of people coming into the market that are following this meme culture, which is fine because it's interesting that we're starting to take value from fiat currency, which, for example, in America, we've printed more dollars in the last year than in the last 2 centuries, which is mind-boggling. I don't have to be a world-class economist to understand that inflation is in the next 10 years is going to be incredible, which is why you're seeing these institutions put 3%, 5% of their whole capital flow into cryptocurrency and coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum because of the deflationary nature of those coins and of the cryptocurrency market. So I wouldn't talk about any specific token out there, but what I would say is that do your research, understand why you're investing in it, because some of these tokens are tackling real world problems. And if you can find a token that's actually using blockchain to better assist in a specific industry, I think in the long-term horizon, you're going to start to see a great hedge against your dollar. Right now, I'm telling you guys, the kind of the worst thing we can do right now is hoard cash. We've got to put those dollars to work. And the only way we do that is by investing and learning about the crypto market. I would say, do your research, make smart investments, only take advice from credible sources.
Kezia, speaking of putting dollars to work in investments, what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I endorse every single thing that Vernon was saying, but I want to double down on it just a little bit more. I found this clip last week of Nipsey Hussle talking about the revolutionary outcome of what blockchain technology can do, right? Like blockchain technology is what powers the trading, the buying and selling of cryptocurrency, like coins, like the Dogecoin, like Bitcoin, like Litecoin, like Ether, right? So blockchain technology represents an opportunity for peers to transact amongst one another, right? And it's an opportunity for people to trust one another versus trusting institutions. Nipsey Hussle doubled down on Black people taking an active interest in blockchain technology because of the distrust we've had with institutions in the past. When you think about Black entrepreneurs and the way in which we have interacted historically with banks, it's been difficult, like Ross said, for us to get access to loans, right? Whether it's buying a home or for us to get access to loans to actually fund our businesses. this. So when you think about cryptocurrency, specifically when you think about blockchain technology, I think Black people should begin asking themselves the active question, what is the future of technology? And how is it that a community can come together, build trust, and trade amongst one another?
Ross, what are your thoughts about cryptocurrency and blockchain technology?
No, I think blockchain technology is something that is here to stay, right? The ability to decentralize everything, right? When you're completely removing the middleman between all type of transactions, right? I think that, you know, as you continue to do more due diligence, definitely read up on everything so you can start understanding why certain coins are around and maybe why you believe certain coins should be here. But I do believe if you're a long-term investor, if you make the right decisions within, you know, the certain coins, I think that you'll for sure get good returns, right? So two that I would definitely say take a look at, right, is Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? Bitcoin is obviously the 800-pound gorilla because it was the first of its kind, right? It is effectively digital gold, right? And, you know, like Vernon said, you're seeing companies actually invest their cash on their balance sheet into Bitcoin. And Ethereum, I want you to look at it as though it's like an app store, right? Where other programmers and developers are now able to build on top of the Ethereum platform, right? I know you guys have been hearing about the craze of NFTs. Well, they effectively are either building it on Ethereum or you're going to need to use Ethereum, Ether, the coin, you know, in order to actually buy, you know, the NFTs to pay gas fees. So at the end of the day, I think that cryptocurrency is something that's going to be here long term, right? Obviously, the coins are going to come and go. I want to say it's like over 4,000 coins or something like that. Don't get distracted from the noise. Be a very disciplined investor and say, okay, this is what I want to own, and here are the reasons why.
Vernon, so when it comes to the road to $1 billion, why is it your philosophy that we must have an increased tolerance for risk in order to get there?
So Selena, I'm a huge fan of Napoleon Hill. And, you know, he went and he interviewed 500 of the most successful entrepreneurs, successful businessmen of the 19th, 20th centuries. And one thing that they all had in common was that their huge success came right after a huge failure. Now, I know just human nature tells us that that's not rational, right? When you fail at something, usually you want to stop. You want to stop doing what you're doing because you feel hurt and you don't want to continue. But the reality is that we must build up a tolerance for risk, or else we're going to be stuck in a state of mediocrity. And I'm just going to say that again. We have to build up a tolerance for risk, or else we're going to be stuck in a state of mediocrity. It's important that we take those risks because it's the only way that we're going to get to that billion. You know, we have to be entrepreneurs in order to get to that billion. It's very rare that you're going to be an employee to get to that kind of that kind of wealth. Maybe if you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, possibly, but more than likely you have to take the risk. You have to be an entrepreneur, and it's all about going down those paths that are unknown, making sure that you keep that body armor of resilience and make it work, make it happen. Once you put it out in the universe is going to carve that path, and that's exactly what's worked for me. And I'm excited to see how everybody else is going to rock out and make this work.
Kezia, how can Black entrepreneurs scale their businesses to generate 7, 8, or even 9-figure incomes?
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what Vernon said. One of the things that I like to tell folks is that having one stream of income is hazardous to your wealth. So when you think about risk, you need to think about your 9 to 5 being a fixed income. So like you work 8 hours, you get paid 8 hours, but you work 10 hours, you get paid 8 hours. You work 12 hours, you get paid 8 hours. You work 16 hours, you get paid 8 hours. And since your job can't be passed down to the next generation, anytime a job decides to remove your employment, that really is the risk. And so what I like to tell people is that not having multiple streams of income will absolutely impact your wealth position. And so when you talk about risk, it's important important for you to think about risk as calculated risk, right? Like, what is the risk if I don't bet on my skills as much as my employer pays me for my skills? And I think the greatest thing about the gig economy, just talking to yourself about scaling from 8 figures, 7 figures, if you're trying to get to from 4 figures to 5 figures, from 5 figures to 6 figures, right? Is that you have to figure out a way to take your skill and monetize it. And the greatest thing about 2020 and 2021 is the emergence of the gig economy, meaning that you can take your skills right now, whether it's advertising, tweeting, right? You can put that on Fiverr, you can put that on Upwork, and someone will pay you tomorrow without you having a W-2, just as an independent contractor. If your only skill is driving and you got a car, you need to go on outside of your house, get up in your car and go pick somebody up and get $12. That's $12 more than what you had. If you're handy, whether you're a man or you're a woman, if you can build shelving, if you can install security systems, if you can lay a floor, you can get paid $300 to $500 a week if you go on sites like Handy and Angie's List. And so the key that I want people to take away from is that the only way that you sell labor doesn't necessarily have to be to an employer. The other thing is you can work a 9 to 5 and you can come home and build your business from 6 to midnight and even on the weekends. That's how you get to wealth, not betting on one stream of income, but betting on yourself enough to know that you can multiply your streams of income.
Ross, I want to get your feedback as well. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I love what both people had to say, right? You got to take the risk. And two, you got to, we heard this when it came to applying to college, right? You got to be diversified, right? You want to make money in all different avenues of life, right? And I think that Kezia said something extremely important, right? We're in a new era, right? We're in the internet era, right? You have the ability to be your own. You have the ability to have your own television show. You have the ability to have your own commercials, right? I'm gonna take it, a step further, just to add to some of the points, right? You can get a car and rent it out on Turo. You can, Kezia, she actually had a class on this that I saw her posting about, but you have the ability to do drop shipping, right? Selling products on Amazon. I think one of the things that we have to understand in this world is that, whatever you're thinking about, right? You just got to do it, right? I think one of the greatest business lessons came from a sports company, right? And that's Nike. Just do it, right? So often we procrastinate day in, day out, and life just keep passing us by, right? No matter what we're going through emotionally, the earth going to keep spinning. And I think that every time that you are hesitant to actually just jump out there, like Vernon say, take that risk, because, you never want to look 10, 20 years down the line and always say, I wish I would have done something.
Selena, I just want to point out that as we're on this call, I got a ping that one of my tenants paid rent. And it's just crazy, because you can start with working hard with what you have, just like we've been talking about. Start with what you have, and then take a risk with that capital. And I implore everybody to take the risk with real estate, because you're going to be able to make money while you sleep. It's going to build that foundation for you. And I keep talking about it over and over because I feel so passionate about it. And I feel like a Superman every 1st and the 15th of the month. This rent was a little late. I mean, we're in COVID, but my point is the same. Be that superhero by getting that cash flow without lifting a finger. I mean, of course, you got to manage the property. You have to make sure things are going well. But at the end of the day, you're getting pings throughout the month. That's what it's all about, cash flow.
Absolutely. Passive income and having your money work for you. Kezia, what are some of your final thoughts that you want the audience to take away when it comes to either investing in a business, investing in real estate, or investing in the stock market?
Yeah, I want to just piggyback on what Vernon was saying in my closing thoughts. And it's something that we have discussed before, and that is making money while you sleep, right? Some of you all, your money is sitting up in your house, right? Just like a family member, right? That's sitting up in your house, eating all your food, right? Taking up all your whole water bill, taking whole 12-hour showers, right? They just took a shower 5 minutes ago, eating up all your food. Their shoes all over your couch, in your bed, and they ain't paying you no rent. We've all been there. Any money that comes into my house, it has to go to work. You can't live in my house rent-free money. And how that looks like is how every single panelist has hit on. Maybe you need to put your money to work in real estate, buying a single family home and house hacking that so that your tenant can live in the basement while you live on the first floor. So like what I'd like to tell people is that $1 billion dreams are not birthed with bargain basement work ethic. You have to get creative on your pathway to wealth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kezia. Once again, Ross, just to throw it back to you to get your final thoughts. Again, what does our audience need to know specifically about investing in stock? I know you said just do it, but what are some of the actionable steps that people should be writing down or looking into?
Great point, right? If you're sitting at home and you're still trying to figure out, how to get in, right? You going like this, playing double dutch, right? And I'm saying just jump in, but you still don't necessarily know where to start. The very first thing you want to do is budget, right? Link in bio, I have a free budgeting template. The reason I say that is because first, you got to understand where your money's going, inflows, outflows, so you could actually see how much you could start committing to monthly, right? The idea is not to invest one day and think you're going to get rich tomorrow. No, the idea is to find a certain amount of money that you can invest every month. That's how you're going to get rich, right? So once you start with budgeting, then you open up your brokerage account. It could be E-Trade, Robinhood, just to make it very simple, right? And from there, Kezia just talked on it. I'm going to say the same thing, right? Start with an index fund. Quite too often, we get on social media and we see something. It's like, oh, okay, let me go buy this new meme stock, right? That's not the right way to go into it, right? The very first thing is start out long-term investor, right? Buy an index fund, buy that every month. And from there, now you might start having the ability, that comfort level to say, okay, now let me buy individual stocks, right? It might be the best tech companies, right? Whether it's Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, right? The FANG, right? And from there, what you're starting to do is you're allowing your money to make money, right? What you don't understand, and we actually didn't touch on this yet, is that your money's actually losing its value every day, right? I know Vernon was talking about what inflation is going to happen as we're printing so much money. You got to understand, when we were kids, we could go to the corner store with $1 and we could get about 3-4 bags of chips, a couple of penny candy and all that. Well, the reality is now, because of inflation, you're no longer able to do that, right? Inflation is the rise in prices of goods over time. So what I was able to buy with $1, 10, 20 years ago, I can no longer do that because all of the prices of goods go up, right? Your grandmama and them, gas was a penny or 5 cents or nickel, what they would say. No longer the case, right? Gas $4 now. And the reality is rent is going to go up. College tuition goes up. Everything goes up year in and year out. And so I say that to say inflation goes up 2 to 3% each year. So if you got your money in a bank account, which the vast majority of Black people do, right? A lot of us are unbanked. So therefore your money really just chilling under your mattress or something. Understand that your money's going to go down in value every year. You got $100 today. Next year is worth $97. So to that person, the very minimum, you want to find a way to invest to at least outpace inflation, right? So there are so many different ways of starting to invest, but the very first thing, budget, understand how much you can commit to monthly, then you start investing, then you start, investing on a actual monthly recurring basis, right? And I think that's one way to truly think about building generational wealth.
And Vernon, final words on what we should be doing and what we need to do in order to invest, whether that's in ourselves, a business, real estate, stock, etc., and ultimately get to the road to $1 billion.
Well, Selena, my last words are directly towards my entrepreneurs out there listening. I know you guys are going through a lot right now, and you're trying to figure out your next move. And the thing that there's few things that have completely shifted, where I am in my life. And one is discipline. I know I'm echoing what everybody has been saying, but the reality is that, look, we've got to watch our vices. We cannot be spending $2,000 a month on cannabis or buying things that we can't really afford. If we can spend $2,000 on a pair of shoes, on some clothing, then we could tuck that away and begin to invest that, right? I mean, that is so huge. And a lot of people don't want to hear it. They don't tell me what to do with my money, but listen, if we want to do this together, I am you, you and me. We're together. And if we can make sure that we spend our money right, put our money in the right places, then we can grow as a people. And the second thing, it's a small thing, the second thing I want to talk about, which is every day, write down your to-do goals. Every single day, you have a list of things that you have to do. There are certain endorphins that get released in your brain after you check off each one. and you start to become, hey, I'm a go-doer, I'm a go-getter, let's go, I get this done, right? That's important. Every day do that, but then also have your yearly goals and check those goals every day and see, and what am I doing to get towards that large goal? Do I have goals under those goals, and do that on a daily basis? It's very, very important. So I would say, those are things that have completely shifted where I am. And for me, I just want to make sure that everybody stays disciplined. We do it together, and we make this get this road to $1 billion. We got the tools. There's no reason why we can't get there.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to thank you three so much for joining us today for this very informative and insightful conversation. Thank you, guys.
Thank
No
you,
problem.
Selena.
Thank you, Selena,
for having us.